Awesome observational question. When does that tend to happen? When are you hoping to have this solved by? When are you looking for this solution to be implemented? It is essential, imperative that you ask questions, that you focus on asking questions. That is, in my opinion, the most important thing to do for anyone who wants to communicate towards action and commitment. What is that? What is communication towards action and commitment? Sales. Well done. Excellent. Why is this so important? Who's had buyer's remorse? Or who's had somebody have buyer's remorse? Who's had cancellations because all of a sudden the person's turned around and gone, nah, I've changed my mind. I don't want this, right? That tends to happen when you've talked them into it. That tends to happen when you've used a technique like feel, felt, found. Does everyone know what I'm referring to there? Feel, felt, found. No? Okay. Very, very old and workable to a degree way of handling something, an objection someone gives. They go, oh, look, I don't like this. Okay, look, I really understand how you feel. In fact, I've actually felt the same way before myself. And loads of other people have felt that too. But what we've actually found is that da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Do you see what I'm doing there? I'm talking them into it, aren't I? That's happens a lot. That creates buyer's remorse. Because they go away and think about it later and go, you know what, he talked me into it, don't they? Am I making sense? Yep. So there you go. I'm talking ahead of myself, aren't I? Right? That you're talking them into it. If you're not asking questions, you talk them into it, they don't feel heard and listened to. And the next thing is that there's no such thing as a bad question. Now, does that mean that all questions are equal? Yes or no? Not all questions are equal. There are questions that are better placed. There are questions that are even, we could say, better worded or better directed. And that's the key skill, right? So if their answers tell you they are not a fit, move on. Because what tends to happen, particularly if people are new in sales, is they tend to want to talk everybody into it. Who's made that mistake before? Raise your hand. Who's not made that mistake ever before? Raise your hand. Right, now I didn't just see all hands come up in the room, so what's happening here? So if you've done that before, raise your hand. If you've not done that before because you've never done sales, raise your hand. All right, now we're getting somewhere. Good, well done. Now, I could argue that you have done that, you just don't know you've done it, because if we don't ask questions, then we tend to talk people into it anyways, don't we? Right? Now, my main point that I'm making there is this. Is everyone going to be interested in what you have to offer? They're not, right? Your primary job, remember the laws of exchange? In the laws of exchange, you've got two people, and if I'm doing this for you, this person has something to offer. This person is somebody who wants that. If not, then the laws of exchange don't work. So what's the first task of this person? So yes, and it's to ask questions, to find people who might want what they have to offer, right? And if you're talking to somebody and they're not interested in what you have to offer, can you talk them into it? No, so move on. It's not, you're not there to attempt to win everybody over. You're not there to get everybody to want what you have. Move on. Sales is and always will be, to some degree, a numbers game. Is that real to you? Yeah? You're going to have conversion rates. You're going to have conversion rates at multiple points in your sales process. It will always be a numbers game to some degree. What questions to ask, right? Who's spent lots of time looking at what questions you want to ask in your sales presentation? Who's invested loads of time in looking at that? Yeah, awesome. Okay. Now, not all questions are equal. So, my opinion, my experience tells me that there are certain types of questions that are more advantageous to ask than other questions. And the questions I recommend you ask are observational questions. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean questions that get the person that you're talking with observing facts. Therefore, they're going to respond with data that is usable. Does that make sense to you? Does everybody, okay, hold on, let me have another go at that. Is there anybody that does not make sense to? Raise your hand. Okay, excellent, moving on. What kind of observational questions am I referring to? Questions that start with what? So, what happens? What happens when? What is happening for you? What is the problem that you're dealing with? What is the thing that you're looking to get solved? Any question that starts with what is an observational question, isn't it? Oh. When? Awesome observational question. When does that tend to happen? When are you hoping to have this solved by? When are you looking for this solution to be implemented? Any question that starts with when will get them to observe and tell you when, right? Where? Where in your system is there a problem? Where does this problem tend to exist? Where would you like the solution to be implemented? London or Tokyo? It's just any question that starts with when. Does it seem to? Or you could combine this with one of the others. So when does it seem to happen? Where does it seem to happen? Does it seem to have a pattern to it? Any question that gets your person observing and then talking to you about their observations is going to be beneficial. Does that make sense? Okay. How important is it? And I've particularly written that up there for a reason, because there's two questions that I tend to not like to ask, and I'll come to those in a second. But how important is it, I feel, is a really good question, because you're getting them to observe their degree of importance and tell you about it. That's valuable information, right?